If your favorite candidate doesn't make the cut tonight, you only have yourself to blame. As the final votes trickle in, it's clear predictions for dreadfully low turnout in today's primaries were spot on. Earlier today, WGBH News reporter Adam Reilly ventured out to some polling places to take the pulse of the few voters he encountered along the way.
At the Oak Square YMCA in Brighton, the polls were nearly deserted as the lunch hour wrapped up, and poll watchers had to find other ways to keep busy. Outside, John Ellis was supporting his preferred candidates, AG hopeful Warren Tolman and Suffolk County Sheriff Steve Tompkins. He called the lack of activity disheartening.
A lot of people wave flags, especially this time of year, in consideration of our soldiers overseas and the like, and a lot of people have died for this right. I hope people take advantage of it.
Bill Martin was one of the few voters we saw show up. He voted in the sheriff's race, but not for any of the Democrats running for governor. Are you a registered Democrat?
I'm an independent who took a Democratic ballot.
And what do you think? It's looking ahead a little bit, but in the governor's race in November, what do you expect to do?
Probably Baker. Because I'm a moderate Democrat and there aren't too many of us left.
Over in Belmont, Cece Buckley and her dog Duke were urging people to vote for Tolman, who happens to be her brother.
I started about 7:45. My husband was here for the first 45 minutes while I got my kids off to school. Took a little 20-minute lunch break and brought Duke back.
At Old South Church on Boylston Street, Stephanie Bernstein was hoping her vote helped Steve Grossman land the Democratic nomination for governor.
I like his experience. I like his time already spent in government, and he's done some really good things as treasurer. It doesn't look good for him because Martha Coakley is way ahead, but you never know with voters.
And Marty Walls of the Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts talked up her preferred candidates, Grossman's rival Martha Coakley and Tolman's opponent Maura Healey.
I was particularly excited about the race for governor and attorney general. I'm a big fan of Martha Coakley and Maura Healey and wanted to make sure that I got out to vote for them today.
But while Walls was enthusiastic about her favorite candidates, the low turnout was bringing her down too.
I get sad and disheartened when people don't see how much power they have to affect their government. And I think everyone should be voting.
If that's the goal, Massachusetts has a long way to go.
All right, and I'm joined now by our resident political junkies. Adam Reilly is here, along with WGBH News contributing analyst David Bernstein. Welcome to both of you. Well, we did predict this. Everybody's been predicting it, but it's still, there's something about it. It's like, you know, it's not that big an effort.
No, it's not.
You know, to do it in the morning, on your way to work, or in your home.
It's a great excuse to come to work late or leave work early.
Exactly. I got to get going, yeah.
Right.
I mean, what is it all about, do you think?
In this race, I'll say that the gubernatorial contest on the Democratic side, I don't think has really thrilled a lot of the party diehards. Think back to that race that we had 8 years ago when Deval Patrick came out of nowhere and beat Tom Reilly, who everyone just assumed had the nomination locked up. I mean, that was a incredible race to watch. And there's no, there's some interesting storylines in this election cycle and some compelling candidates, but no one who can replicate what Patrick did 8 years ago.
On that point, I've heard people say, oh, they'd all be fine. Any of them would be fine. So that's sort of a conceding the point. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to vote.
Yeah, and we'll see whether those folks come out in November. You know, I think that it's hard to say what factors. There are a lot of different factors, I think, that played into this. Part of it was that the whole race played out over the summer. You know, it was just a week after Labor Day. Part of it was, the candidates themselves weren't able to raise a lot of money, so you didn't see them on TV constantly until the very last few days. So there wasn't that, for weeks and weeks seeing the ads and so forth. And, the media presence was not as great, partly because, the race at the top, the governor's race seemed to be a big lead for Martha Coakley, but also, there's less media than there used to be a number of years ago.
There's also the perennial question of whether, the media bears some share of the blame for people tuning out. The guy who I highlighted early on in that piece, John Ellis, made the argument that when you hear, again and again, it's a boring race, turnout's going to be almost non-existent, that it becomes a self-fulfilling product. I think that's a legitimate argument.
I think the media did a pretty good job trying to, put a face on this race over the summer, even while everything was very slow. I don't think you can blame the media on this.
You don't think we should feel guilty, just our viewers who we
But tell me why you think, David, that the AG's race seems to caught on. Everybody knows who was running. People don't even know who was in that. I had to look twice on that lieutenant governor's ballot myself. Wait a minute, do I know all these people? I was like, but the AG's race has really caught on.
It did, and it didn't necessarily have to. I mean, Warren Tolman is a guy who's been out of politics for quite a number of years. Did not come in with huge name recognition.
Well, he's been on TV. I mean, he's been on TV
That's
a
true.
lot.
Yeah, he's been an analyst on TV.
Yeah.
So
former candidate for governor.
Yeah.
But then the other candidate, Maura Healey, was sort of pretty much an unknown coming out of the Attorney General's office, where she led the civil division, and it just turned into an interesting race. They're both very compelling characters. They're both very interesting to watch and listen to. They sort of captured different shares of the Democratic Party electorate, and really had different legitimate arguments about how to use the office. So it just turned out to be an interesting race.
That race also has some great subplots, like the political establishment rallying around Tolman at the very last minute, with Governor Patrick coming out and endorsing him, Mayor Marty Walsh. Some of our viewers may know that Tolman played John Connolly when Walsh prepped for the mayoral debates. So Tolman, got the favor return from Walsh.
And he also played Charlie Baker for Governor Patrick, which is why Patrick got.
Yeah.
I actually happen to think that those endorsements or my theory is that they're going to end up hurting Tolman, that people will not like the idea, men and women who don't like the idea of sort of the male political establishment seeing the wagons circled around, that it's going to help Healey and maybe actually what drives her to victory.
So we have a little prediction scorecard here from David Bernstein and Adam Reilly. I declined to participate in this. So pretty much you guys had similar picks here. Martha Coakley for governor, Steve Kerrigan for lieutenant governor, attorney general, both of you say Maura Healey, Middlesex DA, Marion Ryan over Mike Sullivan. There's been a little bit of controversy in that race too. And Seth Moulton beating the incumbent, John Tierney. You think that's going to happen?
I do, and that could very well go either way. I've been watching the turnout pretty closely, as close as I can during the day. It seems like some of the smaller towns have really had bigger turnout than normal, which would seem to help Seth Moulton, and a little bit more than usual in the cities, which might help Tierney. It's really a hard one to read. I'm just that's my best
your district,
guess.
Right?
I do live in that district, and I've seen over anytime you mention signage, you're told that signs don't vote. You talk about people standing out doing visibilities, and that's poo-poo. But it's an indicator of how passionate people are about the race, imprecise, but it's an indicator. And I've seen a mounting presence from Moulton in the last couple of months. For what it's worth, I think, a couple points. David and I did not speak with each other before making those predictions. We just happened to come to the same conclusions.
Well, you have one differing one. We should show that here. Your one differing one. Ding, 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 ding. Treasurer.
Right.
Adam's picked Deb Goldberg. David's picked Barry Feingold.
That's a very interesting race, and there's a third candidate, Tom Conroy, and the percentage of the vote that Conroy takes could affect the overall race. I think that Feingold is going to have some advantages. He really latched onto the market basket situation, which was happening in his state senate district.
Maybe to
Deb Goldberg has been a perennial run.
Started the boycott.
She also has a lot of Stop Shop background, and she's got a lot of TV presence too. So
she has a solid TV presence, and she could take some advantage of a large women's turnout today.
All right.
Can you make one prediction for us? Because you've sort of tried to skate here. What did we get wrong?
You might have a couple things wrong.
Yeah? Can you name one of them?
I'm tempted to, but I don't do this.
The viewers would love it.
Yeah, I've already told you to.
All right.